Hello and welcome back to Booker Teak, the show where we talk about Totoro's big fat mouth. No, just kidding. We're going to talk about Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. It's a two-part manga that I purchased, and I want to compare it to the film because it is so complex and so interesting, and I think that if you like the film, you'll really, really like the manga. The interesting thing about this is that it's like 110% Miyazaki. He wrote it and he illustrated it, and the illustrations are beautiful. He wrote this over the course of 12 years. So that was basically from 1982 to 1994, and it was published in a serialized form in a magazine called Animation. There's so many great details, in this, and I think that, Miyazaki chose wisely in what he picked from it and what he chose to leave out. But the world that he created in this is so complex, and there's so much more to what we see on screen. And it is like crazy rare for a director of a film to be making the film based on material that he not only wrote, but also illustrated. To know that he worked on this for so long, like Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind was his baby. He brought it all together in such a beautiful way. So there's a reason why I chose to do this month. There's this group of awesome creators on YouTube doing the Director Project. My husband Dakota is one of them, and basically everyone this month is talking about Miyazaki, and it's just like Miyazaki Appreciation Month, and we're all raving about him. So you can check out, there's a whole huge playlist with tons and tons of creators all doing this, and it's a really cool idea. I am just so happy to be a part of this, and I'm going to put a link in the description down below so you guys can check it out. I can hear a voice in my heart all the time. Go forward, it tells me. So all I think of now is going forward as far as I am able. So that's a line that Nausicaa says in the manga, and I just think it's so interesting because Miyazaki was 43 years old when this film came out. He had one other film before this, but this was like a turning point in his career. And this kind of is the film that made Studio Ghibli possible, which is huge. He's had a huge influence on pop culture and so many things. I mean, for me, a kid in the Bronx, I grew up with his films. It's just crazy to think of like how that wouldn't have been a part of my life if he hadn't persisted in pursuing his passion in his 30s. So when you hear Nausicaa say that, just keep moving forward, it's so inspiring to me because he had no idea, even in his 30s, what type of awesome, influential director he was going to become. And I don't know, at least for me, I feel like I have certain like age points of like, well, by the time I'm 25, I need to do this, and by the time I'm 30, I need to do this, and by the time, you know what I mean? But like, if he would have had that mentality of like, well, if I don't make it by the time I'm 35, I need to give this up, then we would have never gotten his work, and that would have been a huge travesty. So the fact that he just kept persisting and moving forward is so inspiring for me because it's like, just keep doing what you love, and who knows, maybe something will work out for you. And I think his maturity, you can really see it in the manga. I mean, you could see it a lot in the film too. The film is pretty violent, and I think the whole thing kind of shows you that Miyazaki has seen things in his life and he has been personally impacted by war. But even with Nausicaa's character development, even though she's only 16 during the time of the story, she is very mature, and he shows that being true to yourself and kind to others is a really great way at combating some of the evils in this world. A little bit of backstory that I found interesting about Nausicaa that we don't get in the film is that she is one of 11 children, but because of the just god-awful world that they live in, life expectancy is very low. So she is the only child of the king to live until adulthood. And the king kind of laments over that and says that he wishes that she were a boy. And she even does. I kind of started referring to her as an anti-princess because she says something along the lines of like, why do I have to be born a princess? It's like she has this responsibility and she chooses not to just kind of take the luxuries of royalty. She like gets her hands dirty. She's doing like lab research to figure out, cures for her father and for the people of her town. In the manga is she's going to war willingly. And everyone's like, the princess can't go to war, why is she doing this? But she feels the need to like persist and basically do everything that a prince would do. So whereas in the film, war is kind of being thrust upon the Valley of the Wind, in the manga, they've already decided to go to war, just as a means of survival. They feel like it's what they have to do based on previous pacts and political things that they've gotten themselves into. Another huge difference with Nausicaa between the manga and the film is her abilities. In the film, you see Lord Yupa kind of wonder what she's capable of and wonder how like she communicates with Tato and the Ohms, or as in the manga, it's the Omus. So you kind of see hints of that. Whereas in the manga, she's capable of so much more. Like she has like telepathy, she can control animals in a much more interesting, more powerful and direct way. But a lot of it is like internal and she doesn't really question it. It's just things that she can do. She can even actually like read the wind. So oftentimes she does something incredible and you just have people saying, how did she do that? What am I hearing? Or what, you know what I mean? And it's like all kind of speculation. I totally get why Miyazaki chose not to include her powers in the film, just because of how complicated it would have been to tie in. And even in the manga where you get to where the movie ends, there's not like exactly clear answers yet. The film came out in 1984 and he was writing these until 1994. So, you know, it kind of makes sense that he just didn't like give all of the answers away in the film because, you know, he didn't want to spoil it for his readers. But I think he does a really cool job of like summarizing like character arcs and plot points in the film in like simple scenes. So one example that I'll give is when Nausicaa meets Tato like bites her finger and she doesn't flinch away or react in anger towards Tato. She just tries to create like a mutual understanding and empathy between them so that they can be friends. And that's foreshadowing what Yupa would later do, you know, when Nausicaa is upset and she's enraged and the manga compares her to an Omu when she's like that. But then Yupa puts his hand in her way to prevent her from killing and he takes the bite from her without flinching away to show her we need to have the same mutual empathy and understanding towards humanity. And that's a big arc for Nausicaa. Her love for animals is very clear, but she's not very good at always expressing her love for humans. And that's something that gets brought up to her, but she says that she is a lover of not only her own people, but she has kind of developed a love for all people and sees that she needs to do what's best for literally everyone. The animals, the earth, and like all of the human tribes. So she's taking on a huge responsibility for herself. And I think that those two scenes are like the big indicators of like the direction that her life would be taking later. And lastly, I just kind of want to talk about the differences between the manga and the film in regards to art. The artwork in the manga is all black and white, which is kind of difficult because color is pretty important. Like the Omu's eyes like change color when they're angry, and the fact that Nausicaa's dress is blue, whereas in the film it's blue the whole way through, that's not the case in the manga. You know, obviously, you know, at the end of the film, the scene where it talks about her wearing a blue dress, it's really important to the plot. So when I'm reading this, it's like every scene is so beautiful and detailed. Miyazaki has such a great way of like framing shots that it's hard to even get through. Like I'm reading very slowly because of how much time I spend just like looking at how great his work is. I can see why he moved on to become a film director. Just because what he does in Nausicaa, the film, is like so beautiful. And he's able to use those colors and create movement and facial expressions. And even the scene where she is like laying and she has the Omu's like eye over her and she's just looking at how beautiful everything is, you can really sense her connection with nature in the film in a way that I just think is so well done. So while the color choices kind of make it more interesting to watch on screen in a way, just being able to like pause and look at each and every illustration that Miyazaki did is such a treat. And I wish that more of his films had accompanying manga to go with it. I know The Wind Rises has one, and I'm going to probably read that at some point because I'm really enjoying this experience. But I also can't say that, oh, I would prefer if Miyazaki was a manga artist. I think what he's able to do on screen is so phenomenal. That sense of peace and tranquility, the ability to like focus really in on the nature, is something that you get a bit in the manga, but not nearly as much as you can in those quiet moments in the film, and that you would see in later Miyazaki films to come. So if you've made it to this point, thank you so much for watching. Here's a clip from Totoro. So if you've enjoyed this video and you like learning about Miyazaki, you would love the playlist available from the Director Project. So please check that out. Like, subscribe, comment down below something, please. This is the part where I beg you to pay attention to me in the future. Please? Okay. Bye.